Hey guys, this is Tom Quayle and you are geeking out to Gear Gods.
What's up, Gear Mortals? Trey, Xavier here. I am at GuitCon 2017, the first edition, at the Framus and Warwick Factory. We're in the showroom, and I am here with Tom Quayle.
Dude.
Of
Tom
Quayle fame.
Yeah. Of Tom Quayle.
a fellow YouTuber and just out of this world fusion.
Cheers, dude.
Rock,
Thank you.
Guitar, player of many genres, and melter of many faces.
Wow.
I would say.
Thank you very much.
This is my first time meeting you. Saw you play at NAMM once.
Right. Yeah.
A while back.
On the Laney booth, possibly.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was you and Martin Miller.
Yep.
I think we figured out.
Having a shred off.
Actually, you know who a friend of mine who passed away kind of recently, Jason Spell.
I did know Jason, actually.
Yeah. Wow, man,
Really
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Now I am bummed.
I didn't know you were friends with him, actually.
Yeah, I didn't know him super well, but you know, we got along great. We would talk now and again. He's a great dude and a really great guitar player.
Well, funnily enough, speaking about that, I just did an album and it was dedicated to Jason.
Wow.
Because he was one of the first guys we did an Indiegogo campaign, and he was one of the first guys to support the campaign. Wow. So obviously, because of what happened, and the fact that he really supported, and it was right, music was right up his street as well.
Yeah.
That kind of very, very silly fusion shred stuff.
Yeah.
So we dedicated the album to him. So
I did not know that.
That was our way of saying thanks to him. So that was cool.
That's great. Great. Well, I didn't mean to super bring down the conversation, but I literally just remembered that as we were sitting here, even though we talked about it earlier a little bit. I just remembered that it was Jason.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
The reason that I wanted to talk to you specifically, I mean, there's a lot of people here that some very interesting people at GuitCon. A lot of great guitar players, a lot of driven people. If you want to be in the YouTube game, you really have to be driven, disciplined, motivated, and some manner of showman. You know, some version of extroverted, you know, wants to be in front of people.
Some kind of narcissism in some cases.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Well, but that's kind of what I was getting at. There's this. We're all, of course, some version of narcissist, a little bit at least.
Yeah.
But I detect none of that in you, like zero. I've only talked to you for a couple days now, but like I have met many very good guitar players.
Right.
In my line of work, I've gotten to meet most of my heroes, and they've all been pretty great. But I think there's a threshold of talent, okay? And the ones who are top-notch freaks, such as yourself, okay, like, I have found that often, because of what it takes to get to that level, they wind up with personality defects that are glaring.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of, I think of it like role-playing stats, okay? And here's the desert of their social skills, and then there's this one talent.
They're peaking in this specific area,
yeah. And it's debilitating for their lives.
Yeah, they can't ride a bike, they can't cook, they've got no, exactly, yeah.
They can't talk to you, you know? But I was struck by how normal you are.
Well, I hope that is a thing, you know, but my points are spread across more areas. But yeah, I mean...
So I have a couple questions related to this idea.
Okay.
Mainly because I know that I could probably get some normal, straightforward answers out of you regarding this. Because I've played guitar for 20 years, all right? I studied it pretty seriously for a time. Do you think that there's one or two factors, like specific factors, that separate you from the sort of more average guitar player like myself? I consider myself to be pretty good.
Yeah, sure.
But there's a vast ocean of difference between the two of us, okay? So do you think that there's, I don't know, a kind of focus or a certain innate skill or something like that separates us?
So not one that I can recognize in myself that I can point to you and say, it's this or it's that. But what I can tell you is, you look back on it in hindsight, because people ask you this question and you go, okay, well, what did I do? What did I practice? And to you, it just seems completely normal. So you're not looking at what you're doing and you're not going, well, if I compare how I practice to how this guy practiced, because you don't think about it that way. You just do what you do. Yeah. But I do remember very specifically being totally obsessed with harmony for a start.
Right.
So, and when I say obsessed, I mean I'm not one of those guys who sort of sits and does this kind of sort of talking to people and they go, okay, how much did you practice? And I go, I practice 10 hours a day because it sounds really lofty and like Steve Vai would say, I did 18-hour practice sessions. I didn't, but when I was practicing, and I did a lot of practice, I was so obsessed. I would just sit and obsess over harmony and fretboard knowledge. So I just wouldn't do anything else. I mean, I think in that respect, I guess what that means is I was very focused on the things I needed to do to get to where I wanted to be. So I wasn't skirting around lots of topics. I was very, very specifically focused on one thing. So at the time, it was harmony.
Okay, so you spent a lot of an inordinate amount of time. Specifically on harmony. So you weren't thinking about, or you were thinking less about technique and all, so you wanted to know where to make your fingers go to cut the changes.
That's exactly it. So I was obsessed with the idea of you couldn't stick a set of changes in front of me that I couldn't play over.
Oh yeah.
That wasn't necessarily true,
but that was what you're going for.
That was the goal. So fretboard knowledge to me was the thing that, like the holy grail. That's what I wanted to achieve, was fretboard knowledge. And so if I wasn't getting towards that, my brain wasn't satisfied. I just wanted to do that all the time. And I'd already done, so this was like 2002, 2003 when this was happening. I'd already done loads of technique stuff before that. And my focus was just as focused, but was just on technique before that. A lot of which I've lost now because I only do the legato thing. But I used to be a big picker and stuff as well. So I think it's the ability to focus on one thing until you've satisfied your brain that you've got to the point where your goal was set.
Right.
Because a lot of people dance around lots of things, which is also cool, but you don't necessarily get to the end point that you've maybe set for yourself.
So that's more like me. I'm a little jack of all trades, kind of a deal.
Exactly.
And
I'm very specific as a guitar player.
Oh yeah, you think so?
Very specific. Yeah.
Okay.
So I get accused, and I'm going to use the word accused because it's not correct, although it would be a great thing to do, of being, people say I would make a really good session guitar player, or I'm really versatile. And in some ways, you could argue that because I know a lot about music, so I know how to mold into a particular style, but I'm not a good player in anything other than the very specific micro genre that I exist in. So.
Well, that makes total sense. And I think that the first person that I think of when you say that is Alan Holdsworth, right?
There you go.
So I remember watching a video of him doing a demo of something. I don't remember specifically. I think it might have been one of his carving guitars or something.
Right. Yep.
And the interviewer is trying to get him to play a blues. And it wasn't that he couldn't do it. He flat out refused.
Yeah,
He's
it's not gonna happen.
I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And so he wouldn't make a good session player for anything.
No. Other than Alan Holdsworth.
He just needed to be himself, and he was very successful in that because not because of his, specifically because of his nicheness.
Exactly.
His one thing that he did that was, like I said,
literally. So there was very little either side.
The skyscraper in the desert.
And that goes down to his sound, his technical approach, the lines he created. I mean, the sound really in particular as well, because he had such a unique everything.
Yeah.
So he really is, as you say, this particular kind of thing, and there's very little either side. He's not versatile anyway.
Right.
I consider that, me personally, I'm slightly more versatile than that, but not that much more versatile.
Yeah.
I understand how to play a blues. I understand how to play a jazz blues. I understand how to play a 3-chord funk blues. I understand all the technical requirements and the harmonic requirements. But you could find very quickly 10 guitar players within those genres who would do way better jobs than me. And I like that kind of very focused kind of niche thing.
Yeah.
I should say niche, sorry, the niche thing.
I don't know how to say it.
Nor do I, to be honest.
Neither of us knows how to say it in our respective accents.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So anything goes.
Yeah.
But that's, I think that's pretty fascinating because there's Pixie Licks. So when I was learning, I thought it was really important to be very versatile.
Yeah.
And the more and more I talk to people like yourself and look at people who are successful or really, really good at what they do, I see more and more niche and or niche things. And like people just honing this one specific thing.
Yeah.
You know, and that makes total sense. Like when you want to listen to Tool, you don't want to hear them also play, a jazz standard. Like,
That would be fun though, but yeah, it's not.
It
why,
would, but I don't think that Adam Jones could sit down and play a fingerstyle arrangement of Autumn Leaves or whatever.
Right.
Like, and I think that I, as a guitar player, and many people out there, they view the world of guitar playing. They think of like they have 10 favorite players and they're all doing completely different things, and they think like they have to get to a level of guitar where you can do all of those things.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think that anyone except for Guthrie can do everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I mean,
those guys
we have
are
to cut
very few
him
and far between. Yeah.
out of the fucking
right.
equation entirely.
Yeah.
Okay, because
That's not a level playing field.
that's fucked up. So fuck Guthrie. Okay. He's just great at everything.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But 99.9% of even the like best players can do what they can do better than everybody else, and not necessarily everything, and that's fine.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think hearing that from you especially makes me feel much better about myself as a player.
Yeah, I think-
and my path of music.
I mean, these days it's almost even more so because with social media being the way it is, it's so easy to be seen as a guitar player. But because it's so easy to be seen, the whole thing has become homogenized and everybody sounds the same. So you need to have some kind of cheesy marketing term, unique selling point, in order for people to actually pay attention to you. Like Mateus Asato is a really good example. Do you know Mateus?
Right, yeah.
I mean, everybody knows Mateus.
Yeah.
So huge on Instagram, really doing well with his career. And as soon as you hear one of his videos, it's like, you know immediately, that groove, the kind of, even the look he's got, everything is very unique and very, very cool, very interesting, very saleable. It's not like, here's a guy who's doing covers of so many different tunes that you don't know who he is as a guitar player. You immediately know who he is. It's it's really cool.
Yeah. If you think of somebody who's really versatile, a lot of times they are less well-known, less successful. Like when you have a lot of versatile skills, you're gonna wind up all over the place.
Yeah.
It's harder to pin them down.
Yeah.
You know, like the style. It's even like Guthrie. He's been he's had a lot of success, but like, what style of music does he play?
Yeah.
Where, if you want to find him on iTunes and you put in genre, like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's all over the place, and like you listen to the Aristocrats or whatever, it's a broad experience.
So the unique thing about Guthrie is that he's so amazing at everything.
Yeah.
You know, he's not got that focus thing, but he's,
Yeah.
well, he must have done, but just on so many different levels. I mean, it's insane that he's even achieved what he's achieved, but
Yeah.
he does still have a unique selling point because he's just a freak
Yeah. So that's
in the loveliest possible way.
so it's like a, you know, it's almost like going to the circus to see the man who can do everything.
Yeah, they wheel him out. It's like, do the thing, Guthrie. Do everything.
Yeah, do the thing where you do all of the things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so then I think of like, I don't know, like a professional football player, okay? Like, they can do one thing better than everybody else,
There you go.
and then they can't do, I want to say they almost can't do anything else, you know? Like,
I
a lot
think
of
that's
times
probably
they have
true
like,
in most cases. Yeah.
terrible social skills or like
Yeah.
whatever, I don't mean to generalize, but like,
It's the same in any skill that you excel in, basically.
right. So this brings me to my next question,
Yep.
which is much more specific.
Okay.
That was very, very broad. When I think of the way to get better at the guitar from the beginning, I think that I went about it very wrong, like I said. I went to school for music. I always took lessons. I kind of felt like there was this this general guitar knowledge and skill level that you would achieve just by following like this preset path, okay?
Yep.
And you know that as somebody who's taught a lot of guitar, both on the internet and I presume also
Sure. Yeah.
you know, one-to-one lessons, that there's 90% of the legwork you have to do yourself, and you have to find your own distinct path to learning.
Absolutely.
But I feel like I missed out by not doing enough transcriptions.
Right. Okay.
And learning stuff by ear that I just wanted to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Like I didn't learn a lot of the music of my heroes, and I think that's sort of hamstrung me as a guitar player. Do you think that there's that or any other particular thing, like one thing more than anything else, that's gotten you to where you're at?
Yeah, I would say two things. So you've hit one of them nail on the head totally, which is basically, well, it's twofold: ear training and transcribing. Just name any random musical term. Transcribing. And I did
Hemiola.
Well, actually, we'll come on to that, bizarrely enough. Not specifically that, but so that side of things, because at the end of the day, no matter what you do, it's an oral skill. It's a listening skill.
Yeah.
So anything you can do to level that up in your RPG of guitar,
right,
is just going to be a really good thing for you. You know, it's almost better than anything else, except I would say working on your time.
Okay.
Because it doesn't matter what you do, you can learn everything about the guitar, everything about music as a kind of scientific, theoretical entity. Mm-hmm. You can even learn to apply it very effectively and technically on the fretboard. But if your time sucks, it just sounds shit. And it always will.
Right.
There's no way around it. You know, it's just because music is, especially in the Western world, is framed around this very constant pulse. Mm-hmm. And some genres, the pulse is more screwed up than others, but it's all based around a pulse. So if you remove that from the equation, it doesn't groove.
Yeah.
What's the point? It just doesn't work. So, like, people will often ask, what do you think I should work on, or what do you think people should work on to improve their musicianship or guitar playing, whatever? Time, first of all, get that down, because you can't play with anybody if you don't have that. It just doesn't sound good. And then the ear training thing, because if you can react to a musical scenario, a harmonic scenario, without knowing what it is, just by ear, that's more useful than knowing what it is and kind of it's almost like reverse engineering things. Having to go back and say, oh, I know that I'm supposed to play a super Locrian scale here. Yeah. Okay, where's that? You know, that kind of thing. If you can just find it by ear, I'd still recommend you do both, that you know what you're doing and you can hear what you're doing. Yeah. But being able to hear what you can doing is like, that's a more powerful boss level skill than just, you know, being, I don't know, like a level 10 character. You're like super kind of high-end Super Saiyan kind of level. You know, it's those kind of skills, basically. Yeah. I like the RPG thing that we've got going here. Yeah. It's awesome.
Well, I think it's, I know a lot of guitar players who think of, who are like also big video gamers, just because it's kind of like that. Like it's
Well, a friend of mine who's really like, he's Mr. Pun Central. You know, we did this. I do a show called The Guitar, and he calls it a guitar PG. So that's his vibe. So we all have to steal a guitar PG. It's amazing. Yep. It's not mine. I didn't come up with it. My mate Dan Smith, pun genius. So, but it is a good analogy. It makes sense, you know, because you are effectively leveling up different skills, and at some point you do have to make a decision about what you're going to work on.
Right.
And some
you get
things
X number
are more
of
useful
points.
than others. Yeah.
You think of like there's so many hours in the day that you can work on certain skills. That's like your experience points. You can put them here or put them here using work. Apply those hours to this part or this part. That's great.
Yeah, exactly.
So, do you have a particular way that you developed your ear training and being able to hear certain things?
Yeah. So when I was younger, I'm 37, so when I was like 20 odd, or maybe even a little bit younger than that, when I first started learning about at college, doing the jazz degree, learning about ear training, you do all the usual things. So you sing intervals, you know, just the basic stuff. But actually, something that I do, which I find much more useful, is I'll just record a bunch of random chords, as complex or as simple as I like. And I won't go, maybe I'll do like 5 minutes of just literally they're not diatonic, they're not functioning in any way, they're literally just unrelated
just
chords.
Random.
Yeah. And each chord might last for maybe, like if this is your pulse, maybe 4 bars. Okay. So they're there for a while, so you've got time to react to them. Yeah. Then I'll leave it for half an hour. So I can't remember, I have a terrible memory anyway, but I can't remember. Maybe I remember what the first chord is. Yeah. And maybe the last chord. and everything in between, I am literally trying to improvise over it, completely reacting to it. And that's more of a kind of like a musical social skill that's useful because you hear a chord, you don't know necessarily what it is, but you can find a way to improvise over it on the fretboard just instinctually.
Yeah.
So you're not trying to think, okay, I can hear that. A useful skill would be to hear a chord and go, oh yeah, it's a E flat 13 chord.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe not to get the root note if you don't have perfect pitch, which I don't, but be able to know it's a 13 chord, some kind of dominant chord.
Yeah.
That's one useful skill. But in reality, what's more useful is to hear that chord, maybe not be able to name it specifically, but be able to play over it immediately on the guitar.
Yeah, instinctually.
Instinctually, that's the word, because that's what you need to be doing.
Intuitively.
Intuitively. If you're, all the I words, if you're on stage and you know it's a E flat 13, but you can't immediately find the information, well, what good? You're not going to shout down the microphone, E flat 13.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
You don't get a ribbon.
Yeah, man, stick the ribbon on. It's just not, it's a useful skill in a lot of contexts. But again, in the grand scheme of things, when you're actually playing, it's not as useful as being able to instinctually react and just play what you can hear and hear. So, not that I can play everything I hear and hear. I mean, that's like that. It really is a Super Saiyan skill. But I have a very much a guiding thing taking me through, and I can hear my way through changes and react very quickly to the chords that I hear. So again, that would be a thing I would say work on, rather than like, oh yeah, that's a fifth, that's a flat and third, and then it goes up. Those are useful skills as well, but it's the instinctual, reactive skills that are just as useful, if not more so.
Yeah, so like I studied a lot of theory, and I did 3 years of ear training in college, and I thought that was the number one most important thing that I learned through my whole, because they're obviously interconnected, but the ear training is most important because even as long as you can hear what it is and recognize it, even if you don't know the name, which is the theory stuff, if you hear a dominant 7 flat 13 chord and you know the notes that are in it, and then even if you call it fill, like the fill chord,
totally, absolutely,
and you know that these notes or these chords, exactly. His idea of families,
he had his own names and symbols for everything.
Yeah,
he made his way more than ably through any. I mean, that's ridiculous. Through any set of changes.
I would love to see like some kind of picture of what goes on in his head when he hears a certain
I'm not
chord,
sure you would actually. It'd be pretty disturbing. Gnarly.
Be like what it looks like when you open a rift in the time-space continuum,
exactly,
and there's these creatures with more teeth than a thing should have.
Some sort of horrific jazz creatures, fusion creatures.
God.
Yeah, horrendous.
Amazing. I think a lot of people think that, especially people who are just sort of beginning or intermediate musicians, think that there's this Illuminati knowledge that they're trying to achieve that's going to unlock the thing, but really it's just a bunch of made up names for stuff that somebody decided major is the thing that meant that these specific mathematical relationships, that was it, and it's just a made up name.
This is it. I think there's two things. People think that knowledge is going to make them better, but it's not. The knowledge is only useful if you can apply it successfully.
Right.
And then this whole thing of, guitar is particularly weird for this because you get this point scoring thing of the more names I know, the better I'm going to be.
Right.
So we end up with this thing where guitar players are so obsessed with learning every scale, every arpeggio, all the names for everything. And then you ask them to play over a one-chord vamp, and the phrasing is non-existent. Work on that stuff first.
Yeah.
Get that down because you'll feel better as a musician. Your audience will think you're a better musician, and you don't need to be impressing people with, oh man, all these names that I've learned for everything.
Yeah.
So when people talk to me about hexatonic scales, that's like I'm a theory nerd of the highest order, and that is a major turn off for me. It's like you don't need a name for that. Just move on.
Yeah.
There's too much naming of things, too much kind of categorization of things going on.
You can impress 10 people on the internet.
Right, exactly.
They'll be impressed, but then they'll fucking argue with you and tell you that you're doing it wrong or whatever. And and at the end of the day, all you've earned is hours of arguing with nerds and not actually learning anything or
Yeah.
getting better at your instruments.
So I've seen, I won't name him because that would be a pretty crappy thing to do, but one of the most amazing guitar players in the world who's done more sessions than, you know, most people, has played on some of the biggest albums in the world. And I saw him teach once, and he didn't know the modes properly. He couldn't list them in order. He didn't know the formulas of them, but he could play them on the instrument flawlessly every time, and then went to do a show that evening, played over the most fucked up harmony you'd ever heard in your life, flawlessly, improvising crazy lines through the whole thing. And it's just a really good example of being able to spiel off the names of things, and they're useful if you're teaching. I mean, from a teaching perspective, it probably wasn't the best teaching I'd ever seen. People were a little confused afterwards, but in terms of like his ability to take what's in here, in his head or in his ears, and translate it onto the instrument over really crazy, horrible stuff to play over, it just shows you don't need all of those names. You don't need all of that stuff. You just need to be able to hear it.
When you learn something from like a teacher, like either your guitar teacher or like a professor or like in a school type of setting, the urge is to become like them and learn to do it like that. And that's only useful if what you want to become as a teacher.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and as somebody who taught guitar lessons for a long time, it took me too long to figure this out. Okay, you have a source of information, you know, of intellectual information.
Yeah.
And that only has a certain amount of value.
Yep.
You know, if you want to do what your guitar hero does, you imitate them.
Yep.
And you can learn all this stuff and you can apply it, but it's only useful if you're going at it from this real life angle, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, if you ever heard, do you know Jeff Berlin, the bass player?
Yeah.
So Jeff Berlin, I really like the way he talks about it because he's always saying you have to separate the academic and the artistic side of your learning process. So you have to go through at some point, like it's all well and good me saying, yeah, just hear it, but you can't hear an augmented scale unless you've sat down and learned what it is first,
Right.
and how it sounds. You're not going to invent that sound in your head just, you know, by virtue of the fact that you know all 12 notes.
Right.
So somebody has to show you academically what it is, but the quicker you can separate that from the artistic side, and you can say, okay, well, I just need to spend a lot of time learning this stuff and learning where it is on the fretboard and having the technical facility. As soon as I've done that, I need to start applying it musically and artistically, because otherwise it's just a piece of knowledge and it's nothing. It's never going to be used in a musical context. And
We were being interrupted by
fly.
tiny little bastard of the animal kingdom.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So that's great. That's a really great way to look at it. And like we're almost guilty of the same things, sitting here like getting intellectual about. So basically, folks sitting and watching this, I want you to now take this and do something really practical with it. And actually, I want to end with, I would love for you to give me and the folks at home the most practical thing that they can do right away to apply this to really right now get 0.5% better.
Okay, so let's take the harmony thing rather than the time thing.
Okay.
We could have gone either way, but let's take the harmony thing. So stop looking at the fretboard in terms of big shapes. Okay. Start taking, you've basically got, I'll try and make this short, you've got 11 notes and a root note. So that's 12 notes, but the root note always looks the same.
Right.
So you've got 11 intervals that you could possibly play against a given root note within an octave. Learn what all of those 11 intervals look like visually, because we play guitar, it's a super visual instrument. Or bass, this works on bass as well. Learn what those 11 intervals look like against a root note, either ascending or descending. And there's only so many ways they can look.
Right.
Okay. And then any scale, any arpeggio, any chord is only built up from a sequence of those 11 intervals against a root note. And if you know what they all look like, and it is a finite number, it's not that big a number.
Right.
I can't tell you what the number is, I've forgotten in standard tuning. I don't play in standard tuning, but in standard tuning it's a finite number. You could literally be given the formula or the numbers in any scale. So like the major scale is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Right.
A Dorian scale would have a flattened third and a flattened seventh, so you need to know the theory. but you can really quickly find a root note and then see what all of those other intervals look like on the fretboard. But the cool thing is, and this is why I want to give this to you as an assignment, if you learn what a flattened third looks like against a root note, for instance, that single piece of information, which maybe that would be the assignment, go and learn what a flat 3 looks like against a root note. That works for the Dorian scale, the Phrygian scale, the Locrian scale, the Aeolian scale, the melodic minor scale, mode 2 of the melodic minor scale, the harmonic minor scale, the minor pentatonic scale. So you see my point. It works for a minor arpeggio, it works for a minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio, a minor 7 arpeggio. Right. It works for a diminished arpeggio. So that tiny piece of information, we look at the fretboard and we think of a pentatonic scale as being a different thing from a Dorian scale, which it is. You see it as a different shape. But if you look at the components that make it up, so that flat 3 being one component, well, it's exactly the same in all of those scales, in all of those arpeggios. So you don't need to learn it 5,000 times. It's the same piece of information. So it's about economizing how you learn things.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be 5,000 different things. It's one piece of information applied to many different scenarios.
It's not like the piano where you have to learn each scale, each interval, each mode and everything individually.
Absolutely, because they change depending on what key you're in. They physically change shape, whereas on the guitar we don't have that problem.
The guitar, you've got minor third that's 3 frets apart. You scoot it to a different key, it's exactly the same.
Exactly, so you might as well play on that benefit.
Right.
Otherwise you're kind of wasting, or you're putting too much effort in.
Right.
And nobody wants to put too much effort in.
Right.
So
it's not like you have to learn what an F sharp power chord is like as different from an F power chord. Once you've learned one, you've learned the next one. It's exactly the same for every interval.
And the only note you care about is the root note.
Right.
You position the root note and everything else takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Same thing, even when I'm playing over the most complex, crazy, stupid tunes with really silly harmony in, the only note I'm paying attention to as a note, is the root note, and everything else is just intervals around that root note. So that's the assignment. Basically, learn what intervals look like on the fretboard. It's not a short assignment, but it will make you a much better player.
But you can do one today.
Exactly.
You're probably sitting in front of a computer watching this. You can learn 1 or 2 intervals right now.
Even just one is fine, because it's so powerful.
And you're going to learn one, and then you're going to be like, damn, that's amazing. Now I want to learn the rest of them. So learn one right now.
Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Awesome.
All right, man. Well, where can the people of Earth find you on the internet?
Literally my name.co.uk. So I suppose I should spell it because people do all kinds of weird spelling.
Oh, yeah.
So it's Tom, which I won't spell, and then QUAYLE, which is QUAYLE .co.uk.
Right.
It's not .com. .co.uk from the UK. So
yeah,
and there's all sorts of stuff. There's lessons on there. There's like some backing tracks that people can download. There's tons of stuff on there.
Great. Well, hey, thank you so much. That was
very much, Trey.
Very informative.
Cool.
I hope that the people at home really grasp this and take it seriously and take it to heart.
Me too. Yeah.
Because I am going to. I'm really gonna look at that, and when I start getting a little bit of time to practice again.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That'll be great.
Awesome.
So. From GuitCon, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe to both me and Mr. Tom QUAYLE, who is also a YouTuber. And I will see you real soon.
Cheers, guys.